I have to get back to my, I think I'm already there. Okay, so welcome to Friday Night Live with John and me. I'm Patty. A few announcements. I'm going to start with a good thought for the day or the evening. Each a good thought. Each of our offices, we have a little basket with curled up papers. Okay, can everybody mute? Or I can mute you. All right, let's try again. All right, so I'm going to start with a good thought for the evening. Start our class.
Sandra said she's a
There is a time to take counsel of your fears, and there is a time to never listen to any fear.
Hey.
All right. So we are planning a group detox starting the Monday after Thanksgiving. So we want so anyone that wants to participate. All right, I'm getting some echo feedback here. No, I think it was Jane. Okay. All right, I think that's better. Okay, so we encourage detoxing at least 4 times a year. Past few years, we've done it more often, every 6 to 8 weeks. So in between the holidays is a great time. Thanksgiving is the easiest holiday to really stay healthy because you can have the turkey and all your veggies and instead avoid your stuffings and all the carbs. So after Thanksgiving, clean out the system, ease into the holidays. We're going to talk about how to avoid holiday stress and, the bad eating, what to do when you're going to other people's houses. We'll talk about that tonight. And so if you haven't already gotten your detox kit, let us know, give us a call, schedule time to come in if you're local. If not, we will mail it to you. But think about that. We'll be doing it. I'm doing it. John's doing it. I don't know about the rest of the staff, but
Liz said she was.
Liz is gonna do it too. All right.
Doing one too.
Cassandra, all right, awesome.
So Cassandra just signed on. Cassandra's a new employee. She's been with us for about a month. And I know she just texted me, said her mom is on. So
Hola.
and I believe, how do you pronounce it, Cassandra? Yahara?
Yeah, you have it right.
Oh, look at that. Okay, well, welcome, Yahara. We're gonna give away a prize, so stay tuned. Don't leave till we do our drawings. Okay, what else you got?
All right, so we have our community Facebook page. It's a private page where it's a no judgment zone. We share our foods, what we're eating. Clients can share questions. So if you're not already part of that, if you're on Facebook, join us. There's also going to be a QR code at the end of this, so you can easily get that. So again, we're up in the air about December. Our next Zoom is either December 15th.
No, we'll do so.
But we're gonna do it. Okay, so scratch that. It's gonna be December 15th is our next Zoom call.
We'll make it fun and holiday oriented.
Okay. All right, so tonight we're gonna talk about the negative effects of processed foods on the brain, the body, physically, mentally, how it goes way beyond just gaining weight. And speaking of holidays, that picture is kind of Christmassy with the red and white stripes and the green lettuce. And we know that's all fake food in more ways than one, but all right.
Okay, so before I start, I just want to say, first of all, last night I was listening to a show. Gentleman was speaking. They had a gentleman speaking, 99 years old, and you would never know he was 99 years old. He was in World War II. He actually was stormed Normandy, the beach of Normandy, survived obviously, but he was being honored for something, and they gave him 90 seconds to say thank everybody that he wanted to thank. And he said, he says, I'm not used to only speaking for 90 seconds or 2 minutes or something. He said, I'm used to talking for half an hour to an hour. And he says, and I thought this was funny because he said, I learned to tailor my presentation to kind of match a woman's dress. And of course, everybody looked at him. And he said, you want to make it long enough to cover the essentials, but short enough to keep the interest. So that's what I'm going to try to do when we talk here. Okay. I'm going to try to keep it short enough to keep interest, but long enough to cover the things that we want to learn. So anyways, I want to start out by saying, first and foremost is that I want everybody to understand how important it is to eat properly during the holidays. A little known fact is that there are more heart attacks and strokes from Thanksgiving to New Year's than the rest of the year combined. Why do you think that is? Anybody want to unmute and throw some out?
I would say stress, at least for me.
Okay, that's a huge part of it. What else?
Overeating.
Okay, that's a huge part of it. What else?
Outside influences, if family's eating it, and cultural too as well.
Hey, absolutely. All of those are 100% spot on. Okay. What do we do? Think about what we do for the holidays. We say it's the holidays and I am going to enjoy myself. I am going to do the things that make me happy. Well, the problem is that we overdo it. Stress is a huge factor. Being around family sometimes is a huge factor. Okay. There's a lot of jokes made about, Thanksgiving dinner and all the difference in political views, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's real. People get very stressed out over everything. And what happens is when we're all stressed and then we abuse ourselves. And people think that the holidays is a time, they say we're celebrating, we're enjoying ourselves. No, we're not. We're abusing ourselves. We're actually doing things to ourselves that our body cannot tolerate, and multiply that by the stress that comes aboard. And that's why people have so many heart attacks, strokes, different things that happen over the holidays. So we kind of wanted to talk about two things. I want to start by talking about the holidays and how to handle the holidays, because we had people asked us to talk about how do you stay healthy when you're going to people's homes? How do you handle the holiday parties? And I'm going to touch on that before we actually get into the presentation, because I think it's important that we all understand how to do it. All right. The first thing is we become sheep. Everybody else is doing it, so I need to do it. And if we truly think about that, how foolish that is, we say to ourselves, you know what? I know this isn't healthy. I know I shouldn't be eating this, but I don't want anybody else to make fun of me or think bad of me or question me. And yet we don't worry about eating a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken and wondering what people are thinking, but we worry about the fact that, you know what, I prefer not to eat that, or the donuts or whatever it might be. I would rather have a salad. We worry about that. And my question is, why? Why do we care what people think if we're doing the right thing? All right. And I believe it's because we don't like ourselves well enough to be able to say to people, no, thank you. I'm not going to indulge. Now, am I going to say absolutely do not have anything? No. But we have to understand that we can't overindulge. Now, if you're on a program, then it goes back to nothing, zero, okay? Because you have to allow your body to get well. So what my feeling is this: if you're going to a party, a holiday party, and you're on a program, or you're concerned about your health, and I don't know too many people in reality that aren't somewhat concerned about their health. Here's the tips that I think people need to do. Number one, if you're going to somebody's home, a family member, a good friend, etc., you need to let them know in advance what you're doing. Don't wait until you get there or the last minute, the day of. If you're invited, you tell people, I would love to come. However, I have eating restrictions. And this is what my restrictions are. Now, I would not tell them, well, you have to make something for me. I would offer, I can bring what I can eat, rather than making them feel like they have to prepare something else. I can bring what I can eat, and I'm more than happy to attend and celebrate the holidays or whatever we're celebrating with you. Okay. And it doesn't have to be just holidays. It can be birthdays all year round, the other holidays throughout the year.
Just a girls' night out or something.
Yeah. Girls' night out, guys get together, play cards, whatever it might be. I'll bring what I want to eat. If the person is truly a friend or a relative, and I hear this all the time, I'm going to go to grandma's house, or I'm going to go to my parents, and they're going to cook stuff that's not, and I can't say no. Well, if that person truly cares about you, I do not believe that somebody's going to be offended. And if they are, how good of a friend are they? How much they really care about you? And rather than you give up your belief, you need to stick to your guns. And if everybody that's worked with me for any amount of time knows that I like analogies, okay? So if somebody was going to go and I don't know, do something illegal that we know is bad, would we just say, okay, you're going to go do it, so I'll do it with you? Most would say, no, I wouldn't do that. Okay. If my friend says they're going to go and fill up their tank with gas and not pay for it and leave, I'm not going to do that with you. Okay. But yet, when it comes to our health, we think that we have to succumb to the mob, for lack of better words. And we have to just eat what everybody says we should eat. And I know that if you watch TV, you listen to the radio, you go out, the commercials, everything is about food, and none of it's good. Okay. And it does drive me a little bit nuts, because I think we indoctrinate people to think that because it's a holidays that it's almost required that you do it. All right. And then what happens after the beginning of the year? People say, well, okay, I'm going to do this for now. And then when New Year's comes, I'm going to start and turn over a new leaf, and I'm going to be somebody else. And that is not true. That's not going to happen, period. Because by that time, you feel so miserable. Your body is so dependent on the garbage that you just don't flip the switch and say, I'm going to change. All right. So how do we handle it? We handle it by being in control, our self-control. Let other people know what you want, how they can support you if they want to, but they don't have to go out of their way, because you will take care of yourself. And self-care and self-love go hand in hand. All right. If we love the people that we're with, we will do and help them. If we don't really care, we just ignore it and we say, well, tough luck. If you don't like it, don't eat it or don't drink it, whatever the case may be. So I wanted to kind of open up with that, because it is a holidays. I personally want everybody to have a wonderful holiday and enjoy themselves, but we don't have to enjoy ourselves by abusing ourselves. All right. We don't have to feel so bloated and know we're gaining weight and the clothes don't fit and I got heartburn and on and on and on. So start it now. it's a week before Thanksgiving or a little less now. Start it now. Get in your head that I am going to take care of myself, and the best gift I can give myself is to take care of myself, love myself, and do what's right for myself. Any comments, feedback, anything you want to add?
One other thing is to eat before you go.
Yes.
You know, if you're going to an event, if it's just, cocktail hour with hors d'oeuvres, eat what you know is right for you before you go. So you're full and you don't want to eat when you get there. Drink your water, take your supplements like your Slenderade. So you're not,
And
picking.
even if you're going to a restaurant, have something healthy to eat before you get there. So when you're looking at the menu, if you're like me and you haven't eaten all day, you look at the menu. I mean, I want this and this and this because I'm starving. Okay. And that's even a lesson when you go to the grocery store. They say never go to the grocery store hungry. Never. Because when you're hungry and you walk in, you will buy the wrong things because your brain, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, how your brain reacts just by looking at certain things. It's almost uncontrollable. All right. So if you're going to a restaurant, have something light that's healthy. So when you get there, you're really not hungry, because most of us go, I'm not that hungry. Then you can get your smaller portion, the salad, whatever it might be, so that you're not so tempted to overindulge. Okay. Any questions anybody has? Love to hear some feedback. Okay. All right. Well, let's journey into our presentation. Okay. And we're going to talk about the negative effects of processed foods. And it's not about, gaining weight. Gaining weight is bad enough. I mean, I used to weigh 250 plus pounds. Okay. So I know what it's like to be overweight and feel miserable, but there's a whole lot more to wellness than weight. It's about how we feel and why we feel the way we feel. So, what is bad food, processed foods? Okay. Just what is it? Now you're looking at a picture and those are obvious. The cakes and the chicken and the burgers and the fried things, that's obvious. Okay. But it goes much, much deeper, because a lot of people are looking at that and go, I wouldn't eat that. And I wouldn't either anymore. But there's a lot of other things that we might not know that are really problematic when it comes to processed foods that we might put in our body and not even realize it. Okay. Okay. So what are processed foods? Processed foods basically refers to any food that is changed from its natural state. All right. So if a food has to be changed. So in the summertime, it's much easier to eat because things are fresh. We live a place where we can go to a farmer's market and we can buy stuff that's fresh. And it tastes so much better than the stuff that you might get in the grocery store in the wintertime, because those same foods are not as fresh. Fresh is always the best. All right. And this thing actually includes things that have been cut up, washed, heated, pasteurized, canned, previously cooked, frozen, dried, dehydrated, mixed, or packaged. Okay. And then, of course, it includes food that has added preservatives. They put in natural flavors. They add salt, sugars, fats, etc. Those are all processed foods. So you might be thinking, well, how can I avoid processed foods that something has been that's been there for a period of time? And that is hard in the wintertime. In the wintertime, it is hard. Okay. But during the summer times when you can get fresh, that's what we need to eat. All right. That's what we need to have. Now, if you get fresh and you can can it, even though it's cooked, when you do eat it, it's not as good as it would have been fresh, just by the fact that it was canned or preserved. Okay, even though you did it for the most part naturally, but it's still so much better than anything else. Canned food is not real food. It has to be processed in order to protect it. It's already cooked, and it has to be processed, because you cannot put food in a tin can, leave it in a tin can for X amount of time, and think that it's fresh. So whenever I see food drives and they say, bring in all your canned food. Well, okay, if we're two sides now, if people are starving and they have to have something to eat, okay. But if we're doing it for food, we really need, and we're going to support that, we really need as fresh as possible. All right. Because if people are hungry, we want them to eat healthy. But just donating canned food all the time is not a good way for people to eat. Whether they, if they, what are my words I'm looking for? Eat, they need the food, I understand. But if we can help people get fresh food, as fresh as possible.
Nutrition, is that what you're looking
Yeah,
for?
nutrition. Yeah, we need nutrition, because you lose all the nutrition when we can it, we overly cook it, etc. So what are the different levels of processed foods? Okay, so you have your unprocessed food, which, again, corn on the cob is not something we promote, but it just happened to be on the slide I found, or we found, as in a corporate sense. Patty found it. Okay. Your minimally processed foods, which is, what was that top thing?
Corn kernels.
Okay. So they've taken the kernels off of the corn. So now it becomes minimally processed. The apple has been cut up. Okay. Now it's got some processing, because if you cut up an apple and just let it sit, it is going to turn color. Okay. So once that happens, you're starting to lose nutrition. Your flour that is fresh from the earth and unprocessed, your brown flours, hasn't been turned to white or enriched, as they call it. But then when they put it in a container, they add different things to it. Now it becomes processed. All of your cereals are processed. Okay. So I'm gonna jump across here in just a little bit. Okay. Your cheeses, they're processed. All those cheeses that we get. And then when you get your ultra processed foods, is stuff that you see on the far right of your screen, which is your corn oils, different oils that they buy. They're much cheaper than your good oils. People a lot of times buy based on price and cost, but we're killing ourselves. All right. You have your super sweet, you have your butters that never get hard, margarines. Those are all ultra processed foods. So sometimes people think, well, how do I shop? How do I eat? How do I know? Well, lucky for you, we now have an app, and Cassandra's been working diligently with us along with Patty. Some of you already know this, but we can do meal plans for people for the week, for the month, whatever you want, whether you're on a program or not. And all you have to do is tell us what foods you will not eat. So, for example, I will not eat cottage cheese. Okay. It would take a lot of people to force me to eat cottage cheese, or I'd have to be terribly hungry. So I can strike that from my food list, and amongst other things that I might not want. Okay. Like I won't eat olives, a couple of other things, and one or two other things. But so we can make a meal plan that not only breaks down the meal for you, but it also tells you, gives you a shopping list for that week. So when you go to the store, you know how many carrots, or you know how much brown flour to get, or fruit, or whatever it might be. So you have enough food for that week, so you can prepare it. It also gives you recipes on how to make it. Okay, it's all put together, and I invested in it so that I could help people to say, okay, you know what? I don't have to worry and stress myself over getting two things: variety of foods and quality foods. All right. We have it designed so that when you cook a meal, like for dinner, you will have enough left over for lunch the next day so that you're not snacking and grabbing things out of the vending machines, etc. It can be done so that if there's multiple people eating the same meal, how many people are eating it? And we can even break it down basically by calorie intake for people. So we're trying to take away a lot of the stress when it comes to knowing what is good. And we will never, ever allow and do a meal plan for somebody who says, I want to use margarine. I won't do it. Okay, period. End of conversation. If you're going to use margarine, you're on your own. Okay, or something like that. Okay. Now, some of the foods, certain times of the year, might be minimally processed. Okay, there are times when you have to because you can't get fresh all the time. But these are some of the things I just want to throw it out so you have this knowledge as we go through these. Okay, and any questions, please message or come off mute and ask a question, because I really want people to understand what we're doing and what they can do. Okay, so what are the different levels of processed foods? All right. Did I miss a slide?
No, that was what you just talked
Okay, yeah.
about.
Okay, the levels. Okay, I already talked about that. But processed food to include fish, even though we let people have tuna fish in a can when they're on Candida, that is a processed food. All right. We do that. When you buy tomato paste in a can, you buy different things, those are minimally processed foods. So what's in the so what are they? Okay. So examples of minimally processed are frozen vegetables, fresh or pasteurized juices with no added sugars. Okay. So if you're going to juice, you want to juice the fruit on your own. You squeeze the oranges, whatever it might be. Eggs are minimally processed. Okay. But they're still good for you. Lentils and dried fruits, those are minimally processed foods. So processed foods basically are derived directly from foods and are recognized as versions of the original foods. And basically they're consumed as a part or as a side dish, basically. Okay. And restaurants use these all the time. That's how they survive. They can't do fresh all the time. And that is why when people eat out all the time, they will ultimately become unhealthy. So most of your processed foods have 2 or 3 different ingredients. And again, processed foods, canned vegetables, canned fish, tomato paste, fresh unpackaged breads, and cheese. Now, we have ultra processed, and ultra processed is foods that are industrially have formulations. Okay. Things like they're actually extracted from foods, but they're engineered. They're called GMO'd. They're changed. They're genetically modified. They have no nutrition. So these foods are like things like sugars, oils, your fats, unhealthy fats, and a lot of like your Morton salt, that type of thing. They're more like science experiments than food, to be honest with you. And then to process them, they have to use molding. They do a lot of pre-processing and extrusion, meaning they take from foods and then they combine different foods together. And you can't just do it and keep it natural, just like supplementation. You can't put calcium and vitamin D together without adding something else. And that's why things have to be separate. So what are some of the examples of ultra processed foods? Cookies. On the way back here from East Hampton, I was listening to radio and they were talking about, people were complaining because what they call the overstuffed Oreos, there's not as much stuffing in them. And people were complaining, I love Oreos. And I'm thinking to myself, a woman said, I can eat a package of Oreos sitting down watching TV at night. And I thought, I'd like to see how I'd like to see how healthy she is. Okay. I mean, but ice cream falls in that category. So when people say, I like to have a bowl of ice cream every night, you're really, really eating a lot of ultra processed foods. Your chocolates, your energy drinks, hugely processed, and your frozen pizzas. All right. So when you see those commercials about, go and get a pizza, throw it in for 20 minutes, and it's just like fresh pizza, it's not true. The fresh pizza where they make the dough right there when you're watching them or whatever is much healthier than the frozen. So just a little side. I know everybody's going to eat pizza once in a while, so we might as well just call it like it is.
So we're going to Red Rose tomorrow night. So
Okay.
they make fresh.
So what is in the ultra processed foods that make them bad? It's a lot of things like, and it's synthetic, okay, and it's things that are not natural in nature, that does not grow from the earth. It's like I said earlier, it's science. Antibiotics and steroids. So when I do cytoscannings, a lot of times it says steroids or it says antibiotics. People say, I'm not on any medicine, but you're getting it from other sources. You're getting it from meats, different things like that. Pesticides. Again, when I test, a lot of times pesticides comes up. People say, I don't use that. Well, it's on your fruits, it's on your vegetables. And unless they're completely washed really clean, you are getting pesticides and insecticides in your food. It is frightening, I think, okay, because we don't realize that. And people say, well, I'm going to eat organic. The problem with organic today is that all this stuff is in the air. And whenever it rains, all that stuff comes down, and you can't protect the organic fields. There's so much underflow that gets in our water, everything. So it's really hard to say what is truly organic anymore. Other things that has lack of micro and macronutrients, and that if you don't get the micro and the macro nutrients, you go into what is known as malnutrition. Now, people can be malnutritioned and be overweight. Okay. So people think, well, if somebody is got plenty of body fat, that they're not malnutrition. Untrue. Okay. A lot of people that are heavy are malnutritioned. Your food colorings, especially things, your yellows, your reds, your blues, dioxide, which is called the number 6. So if people that like M&Ms, the colored M&Ms, oh boy, you're getting all kinds of food coloring that is really, really hard on your body. Flavor enhancers like aspartame. Now, I go, whenever I'm at a restaurant and I see they have these little holders that have all your sweet and low and your what's a pink one?
I forget what the Splenda.
Splenda. And I ask people, why are you using that? They go, because it's no calories. And I tell them they're carcinogens. They cause cancer. And people look at me like I have 2 heads. They go, well, they wouldn't put it out here if that was the case. That's not true. Okay. It's all about money. It's all about what people will buy. And once you start using these things, they become addictive. And your brain, the change in your brain almost draws you to it. All right. Whether it's ice cream, whether it's your other processed foods, artificial sweeteners, etc. Preservatives. Whenever they have to preserve food, they use what is called MSG. And MSG is a food preservative, but it's very toxic to the body. That is why food doesn't spoil for a long time. And restaurants use it all the time because your delis use it. They use MSG in the meat. So when you go and get sliced turkey breast, etc., that turkey breast might be sitting there for 3 weeks. Okay. So they preserve it initially with MSG. And that way it looks fresh, tastes somewhat fresh, etc. and then your vegetable oils, okay? And that's, again, that's an additive. So, all these things cause inflammation. Inflammation can be seen in your body in muscle aches, joint pain, headaches, migraine headaches, especially, skin eruptions, moodiness, etc. Okay. And that's why sometimes you'll look at people and you'll say, what's wrong with them? You know, they look healthy, but they have these other little issues. And a lot of times it's the way they're eating. And then if you do large doses, like high fructose corn syrups, hydrogenated oils, your things that have no fiber and lots of sodium, those can create a high incidence of cancer. Okay. Because you're getting no nutrition, your body is not able to defend itself from the diseases that are out there, and then the body just starts to break down. And as I've told everybody before, we get cancer cells in our body on average of 6 to 8 times during the normal lifespan. If our body's healthy enough, it takes care of it. If it's not, because we're not giving the micro and macronutrients, then everything turns bad, and then people end up with disease. All right. Okay. So the negative impact of it is disease, degenerative disease, and a cascade of negative effects. Okay. Our body is affected by it. Now, when we eat these kind of foods, all right, what happens is we have neurotransmitters in our brain. And these neurotransmitters are very susceptible to addiction, healthy or unhealthy. That is why people that are healthy and have been eating well for a long time, that's all they want. That's what their body and their brain says, this is what I want. The neurotransmitters give pleasure. Okay. And so when we start eating bad, and it sends a signal to the brain that this is good. And the more we do it, the more the brain feels this is good. Now, we have a second brain, okay? And the second brain is our intestinal tract. And the intestinal tract governs over the brain. So when we put stuff in our body that's negative, after a while, the body will accept it, the intestinal tract, the gut will accept it and send signals to the brain and say, I want more. I need more. And that is why if you've ever been in a situation where you just say, I'm not going to eat candy, I'm not going to eat ice cream, I'm done with it. And the next thing you know, you're eating candy or ice cream, and you just say to yourself, why? It's because of the neurotransmitters, okay? Your body has your gut has more control over you than your brain. Honest to God, it's the gut. We know in our mind that's not good. We know it's not good. Okay. We can look at those donuts and go, I should not be eating those. But when we see them, it sends a signal, or it's a reaction. So if you have pets and you have a dog and you show them food, what do? They start salivating. Okay. And they'll start drooling. That's not their brain. That's their gut saying, I need that. And the brain, and sometimes people as well, but I'll just stay with the animals. Dogs can get almost mean if you don't give it to them. If they see you have it in your hand and you won't give it to them, sometimes they'll snap at you, or they'll take it with a vengeance out of your hand. Okay. And it's not because they're being mean. It's their gut is telling the brain, you have to have this. And that's the problem that we face as human beings as well. We are governed by our gut. And we have billions of cells in our body, okay? And 90% of our cells are bacterial cells, which means they can either go good or they can go bad, depending on how we're eating. So if we're eating bad, then those bacterial cells, they start turning negative. And that's what creates all these diseases that you're looking at. obesity, diabetes, dental problems. Okay, that's why I show people their dental when I do Zytos, cardiovascular, eye problems, and medicine will say, well, you've got eye problems because you're older. A lot of it is the way what we've done to our body over the years. You know, we introduced Luz that's we met her at the show, and she's young. But now is the time for her to take care of herself so that when she's my age or Patty's age or a lot of our
between.
ages, huh?
Or in between.
Or in between, that she's not, doesn't have to necessarily worry about these kind of things. But it's hard to tell a young person to start taking care of themselves, because when I was young, I thought I was going to be healthy forever and no, regardless of what I did. Okay. I always said, I'm not going to end up like those people. Well, I did. And it almost cost me my life. We get a lot of joint pain because of it. Cancers. All the cancers are based upon inflammation. Okay. Inflammation is a result of what we're putting in our body. And also inflammation, as Kim mentioned earlier, stress causes inflammation as well. All right. Metabolic syndrome. Now, metabolic syndrome is how your body is aging. So you'll see people that are a certain age and you just go, wow, they look really good. I mean, they have energy. They have a good metabolic. People that are sluggish, they're, younger than you, and you just look at them and go, man, I'm glad I'm not like them. That's because they haven't taken care of their body. Infections and injuries, easily get injured. Arthritis, which is an autoimmune, Alzheimer's, the brain, asthma, allergies, ulcerative colitis, bowel disorders. Those are all the negative effects from the processed foods that we put in our body. It will include mental health. Okay. How many people this show has told me I have foggy brain? Foggy brain is not a brain problem. It's a gut problem. All right. So lack of energy, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Let's, when we talk about the gut brain connection, okay, kind of a lot of it's what I already said, but the food that we eat affects the strains of microorganisms. And I had made some notes. I listened to a podcast the other day. I can't think it was the day before yesterday, talking about microbes. Okay, microbes are good, and some of them make us sick. So it's what we call friendly bacteria or unfriendly bacteria. Now, you have to have the unfriendly in order to survive. So nobody is going to have all friendly bacteria. It can't happen. We have to have unfriendly, all right? Because that's what we get when we process food through our system, our intestinal tract. That's why we eliminate stools and urinate and sweat, to help relieve that. But if we're not, if we're overloading the body can't get rid of it, okay? So the microorganisms actually send chemicals to the brain that affect the neurotransmitters, as I mentioned before, like your serotonin and dopamine. And those are the ones that make you feel good. All right. So when we feel good, we're going to feel good sometimes when we do bad. I.e., we're going to eat ice cream. I feel good. People drink too much. I feel good. Okay. I do it because I feel. People smoke. Why do you smoke? Because it makes me feel good. It relaxes me. Well, those are the messengers that are going to the brain from the rest of the body. And it's, for the moment, it relaxes. But in the long term, it's damaging and or killing the body. So when you have disruptions in the gut, okay, we will have mental disorders. And I am a firm belief that most of our depression, anxiety, I believe that children that have ADD, ADHD, we have a lot of adults now with it. It's not because they have a brain problem. It was a long-term gut problem. And left unchecked, then it breaks down into degenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. if you've ever been around somebody that has Alzheimer's or any of the other classified age brain diseases, dementia, whatever, it's horrific. Not just for the person that has it, it's probably more horrific to the people that have to take care of them. All right. It is a terrible. Dr. Nelson wrote a book called Losing Mom. And that book, she talks about how unhealthy her mother ate, how much antibiotics, because she was a nurse back in the probably the 40s. And they would just let nurses take antibiotics home, and they just take it all the time, because the idea was, if I take antibiotics, I won't get sick. Well, the problem is antibiotics is creates a disruption in the gut microbiota. Okay. And why? Because it's unfriendly bacteria and it's too much of it. So the same thing happens when we overdo sugar. It's the same exact thing that happens. So we take it because it makes us feel good. It gives us energy. Caffeine is the same way. People say, I love coffee. No, you love the energy. All right. And you get addicted to it, just like you do sugar or anything else. And then what happens is you can see the neurotransmitters, etc., or the brain, I should say, comes down. And from the nutrients deliverance to the microbiome balance, and then everything goes into the gut. Okay, and it goes back up. So your unfriendly neurotransmitters, they give pleasure, but then it creates anxiety, it changes your moods, it creates stress. And even though people smoke to reduce stress, it actually creates more stress in the long run. Somebody just asked, so does that mean there are really no chemical imbalances in the brain? Correct. Some people. Now, I'm not going to say anybody that has a mental handicap or issue, there are extenuating circumstances, but the large belief is that by long-term poor eating will create unhealthy brain, to include ADD and ADHD, etc. And I'm going to tell you, for people that are on, that are more, I want to say elderly, more
On in their years.
on in years, okay? We can look back there. When I grew up, nobody ever heard of ADD and ADHD. Okay, never. Okay, there was no such thing as that. Same thing with allergies. When I grew up, there was never an issue with peanuts or nuts. There was not, period, end of conversation, okay? I could be sitting at a desk and eat peanuts, and everybody around me, nobody had a problem with peanuts, all right? But it's because our body has become unhealthy. Children are born to unhealthy parents, and the parents are the vessel of the child. So whatever the parent's health is, when they give birth, male and female, they give birth to a child, that is oftentimes, that's where it starts, okay? Then we inundate the child from a very early age to sugars. Why? Because they like it. Watch kids go after ice cream once they've been introduced to it, okay? Put ice cream next to good vegetables and see what they do, all right? And they're not old enough, or they haven't been trained enough to know what is good and what is bad. All they're looking at is what makes me feel good. And it's the ice cream, it's a candy. If you ever go to a store and watch a kid just go crazy at the checkout line because they want mom or dad to buy them candy and they just lose it, it's because the gut is saying, I need this. And then they just go off the deep end. Okay. You won't see them doing it in the produce section. Okay. So good question. Anybody else message or send a note? Okay. Go ahead. Energy. Okay. The body gets energy from the foods we eat. Now I'm gonna say something here, because somebody will say, yeah, but I can't detox because I'm working and I won't have energy because I'm not eating. Okay. When I say the foods we eat, I'm talking about the foods that gives you nutrients. Nutrients. okay? I was with a woman this morning or this afternoon in East Hampton, and she said, I can't wait to do my next detox because I feel so good when I'm done. And the reason you feel good is because you're getting nothing but nutrition and you're flushing the garbage out. So it's kind of like cleaning your house. Once it's clean, you look around and go, oh, I feel so much better. It looks better. I feel better, etc. Why? Because you got rid of the garbage. All right. And it's the micro and the macronutrients that gives you energy, not the food, not the food necessarily itself. It's the nutrition within the food. And so when you consume anti-nutrients being foods that have no nutrition, that doesn't have the micro, the macronutrients in it. All right.
Picture doesn't show.
What is that? That increases inflammation, but it breaks down the intestinal walls, slows down digestion. We get acid reflux. We feel bloated. Our stomach swells, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, sugar leads to the roller coaster effect of high energy and then crash. And if you don't think sugar gives you a jump in energy, babysit for parents and say, I'm going to give your kids ice cream right before they go to bed. Okay. They'll fire you immediately because they know the kid will be up. And then the next day they won't be able to get them up to go to school, et cetera, because that's just the way the body functions. So we always talk about weight gain, obesity, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I don't necessarily talk so much about the weight as I do the health. Excuse me, let me get up. We have to understand that's health. So on this slide, it talks about large doses of the trans fat sugars will make you gain weight. But more importantly, the weight, it is the way you feel and how it breaks down the immune system and creates disease. I care much less about what people weigh as I do about their health. And oftentimes it can be very misleading because I work with a lot of people who are thin and very, very unhealthy. I put a lady on a program yesterday, weighs 123 pounds. Her body fat's virtually, well, she's a little bit underweight. Okay. And talking to her, and I said, started talking about her eating. She said, I eat horrible. Sugar is a monster in my life. I just can't stop it. Okay. Well, she has a high metabolism and she just happens to have the genes where she's small. But it doesn't mean she's healthy, and it's doing the same thing as we talked about with a foggy brain, the memory, et cetera, et cetera. So as far as the weight, yes, none of us want to be overweight if we can avoid it, but we want to feel healthy and have energy. And if we have energy, we'll feel better about ourselves. If we feel better about ourselves, we'll take better care of ourselves, and it snowballs. Okay. It creates all these ultra processed foods create high blood pressure and heart disease. So when I mentioned earlier about all of the heart attacks and strokes during the holidays, a lot of it has to do with the foods that we're eating. And then we increase the amounts that we normally don't eat, even though we might eat some, it explodes. We're out at restaurants, we go to parties, etc. Go to a party where they have a little like a cheese bar and crackers, and you'll see people just standing there, what's a little bit of cheese? There's little chunks. They'll eat a lot of chunks, okay? and all that stuff creates negativity to the body. So high blood pressure creates heart disease, increases the risk of heart attacks, strokes, etc. And your saturated fat, which is the bad fats, increase your LDL levels, which is, for those of you who don't know, LDL is bad cholesterol, HDL is a good cholesterol. They match them together, and then it can be a total cholesterol number that can be a problem, but mostly it's your LDL caused by these types of foods and oils. Of course, we all know about diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is oftentimes people are born with type 1, and that means that the pancreas is not functioning and cannot produce any insulin. So those people have to go on insulin injections or some form of insulin treatment. So type 2 diabetes is normally lifestyle. If you stay on type 2 diabetes long enough, you will turn into a type 1 diabetic, where the pancreas will just actually quit and will not function anymore. Once you get into type 1, it's very, very difficult to ever get out of it. And a lot of times it's impossible because the pancreas and the liver and the large intestines, which are all working together in this particular case, quits working and shuts down. So, and as it says, it's a lifestyle disease. And it does say it's more apt in adults, but not anymore. It's very common now in children, in middle school on up. So, what is the good news? We've been talking all the bad news. The good news is it can be fixed. All right. How do we fix it? Had a young lady in today, she finished her program, but she really didn't follow it that well. And she said, I still feel this, I feel that. And I said, because you're not eating right. She goes, but I'm under so much stress and it's too hard. Here's a problem with that. And if any of you are thinking that way, it's no harder to eat healthy than it is to eat bad. You still got to put it in a plate. You still got to, for the most part, cook it or heat it up or whatever. You still have to do it. So the idea that I'm under stress, so I have to eat ice cream and I have to eat junk food is an excuse. It's a way of justifying our bad behavior. All right. And the more we do it, the worse we feel. And unfortunately, people that eat bad, they have a tendency to blame other things or other people. You know, these people stress me out. Okay. And I just can't cook a meal. I just can't. Well, okay. If you get that in your mind, that's what you're going to believe. We act and we do what we believe. And we have to change our belief. If we believe that we can't cook healthy, we won't. If we believe it's okay to eat bad, we will. It's all about thinking about changing. All right. We had a testimonial from a lady that just finished a program, and I was just thinking about that. And she talked about, can you reach out? She talked about, and this lady is into doing acupuncture and acupressure. She does any clients that want acupuncture and that type of thing. We now have somebody that does it. But she said that she noticed that she began to feel energetic highs eating healthy, and how much the feeling low started going away once she started cleaning her body. She said that she just didn't understand that how I told her that her pancreas was stressed when she first started, because she said, I never really had a problem with that. And now she found out that by eating healthy, her sugar, all that stuff has changed. She was having a lot of itching in her body, and that all went away. So it was interesting to read that on somebody who is kind of into the health world. But, I think Luz would agree with me. If she went through the show last weekend and some of the people that were touting good health weren't healthy themselves at all. Okay. And that always shakes my world sometimes. Okay. But it's the way it is. And a lot of times people think they're healthy, but they're really not healthy, myself included at times. There's times I have to take a step back and say, you know what? I haven't been doing the best job I could do. And I start feeling it. And then I have to take a step back and fix it before it gets out of control. So we can fix it by eating properly, okay? And finding the healthier alternatives. We have to have a balanced diet. That's one reason that we're doing the food menus, meal plans, okay? Reduce stress. And I know Kim is going to say, how in the heck can you reduce stress? Okay, it's there, okay? And you're right. But if you're healthy, your brain deals with it much better. All right. And then we have to avoid the toxic foods, the toxic environments, the toxic people. Let me say that again. Toxic people. And over the holidays, sometimes we're with a lot of toxic people. Again, the lady I worked with this morning, she said, there's people I just don't want to be around. When I go to the same church, I have to. My mother tells me, just gotta see these people and ignore it. She goes, and I have trouble. Sometimes we have to avoid people that are toxic to us and make that move. People can be toxic just like food, believe me. Zytoscans, I think, are the ultimate because it tells us things that we don't even know. Oftentimes when I do the Zytoscans, people tell me, after I left, you told me this was going on, and 2 days later, I start noticing it. And because we put our mind to it, we think about it.
And I like this picture, surround yourself with people that do the same things as you, who eat the same as you. When you get healthy, you may lose some friends if you don't want to be going out drinking and partying like you used to. And but that's okay because you're a better person for it. So surround yourself with people who have the same mission.
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember a lady in Arizona. She told, when I had one of these in Arizona, she told me, she said, my friends, we used to go out, eat every morning for breakfast, and we do this and that. And now that I went through your program, they quit calling me. And I said, why? She goes, because they always make fun of me. When I go and I don't eat the stuff, they make fun of me. Now they just don't call me. And I had to tell her, you know what? They weren't your friends. I'm sorry to tell you, they were not your friends. Your friend should say, good for you. Okay? Maybe they don't want to change and do the same thing you are. But most of the time when that happens, they're jealous of you. They were jealous of that lady, that she could do it and they can't. And people don't like to face that, their own inability to fix themselves. So it's not about you, it's about them. So Patty hit a great point there.
All right, so here is the QR code to our private Facebook page. If you want to join us, scan that, and we're happy to have you there.
Okay, so let's open it back up. And before we do our drawing, let's ask for questions or thoughts or whatever. Who's got some questions?
Go ahead, Luz.
It's not so much a question, it's just more overall comment. This was my first, class, and it was very informative. Some things I knew and some things I was like, oh my gosh. But I think for me, where I'm such in a transitional period of my life, I am re-examining not just the foods that I eat, but the people that I surround myself with. And unfortunately, that does also involve family. So that is kind of like a bittersweet realization. But I'm just so excited to go on this journey because once I go, and it's, I'm gonna have to lose people along the way, and I already lost a couple. But I rather have people at the end of the day that, like you said, are doing the same things and have that same higher energy than people that are just going to bring me down and want to, misery loves company. So yeah, I love being in this community.
But you know what, Luz? Here's the thing. When you lose those people, as you do your journey, you're going to bump into other people that are going to be better for you than the ones that you left. Okay? That's the thing that and sometimes people think, well, that if I lose them, I won't have anybody. Oh, no. People will migrate to you and you will migrate to them. And people that, like you said, that have the same belief you do. Okay. So oftentimes people do that. They'll say, but if I don't fraternize with these people, I won't have anybody. Oh, yes, you will. Yes, you will. And sometimes people stay away from you because they think that you believe this because you're with those people. See what I'm saying? So it'll all balance out to the better. And health is the most important. Health is better than money. Health is better than knowledge, because if you have health, those will come. They will come. Okay. But we have to understand that we've got to Just follow our path and believe in ourselves and trust ourselves in your brain and your heart and say, I want to be healthy. That's it. Okay, good thoughts. Okay.
Thank you.
Now we have Robin on here, and Robin does work with people, a lot of work with people that the brain, our thought process, different things, and I've had some nice conversations with her. In fact, I need to connect with her again soon. But Robin, give me some input or your thoughts.
I don't think Robin's audio is working because she's
okay.
only
She
been able to
messaged.
chat
Okay.
us. And Robin,
Oh, Robin just
obviously, yeah, she said you aren't losing yourself, you aren't losing people, you're finding yourself.
right.
So, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, very good.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
This
Go
is
ahead, Jane.
Jane. On the meal planning, does that cost anything?
Yes. We charge $25 for a week or $75 for a month.
Okay.
Okay. Who else has a question?
Do you
Cassandra,
do the shopping for us too?
Yeah, right.
No, that'll cost you a little more.
I barely do my own
Oh,
shopping.
come on.
So,
It is amazing this time of year how people get so judgmental when you try to eat healthy.
yes, absolutely. Because everybody believes it's a holidays and you're supposed to eat the candy canes and you're supposed to eat all that stuff. And, but you have to stick to your guns.
Mhm.
Cassandra, did you have a question? Thought I saw a hand raised.
No, I was just giving like a round of applause to what Luce was saying.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good, good.
Anybody else have a question before we do our drawings?
You just want to ask about that.
Okay, you're gonna stop the recording.